Okay, so first off, thanks so much everyone for joining us on a Monday evening. I really appreciate it. And also thanks very much to the PWSA staff who are presenting this very important information to us. We all really appreciate it. And we'll get into who those folks are in just a minute, but I wanted to just welcome everyone and let you know that my name is Erin Copeland. I'm the Senior Restoration Ecologist with the Parks Conservancy here in Pittsburgh. And our mission is to improve the quality of life for the people of Pittsburgh by restoring the park system to excellence in partnership with the community and government. And our projects and programs are conducted with respect for ecology, historic design, and the needs of our diverse region, excuse me. And so we are hosting this series of webinars and the opportunities for the online engagement work as part of a grant that we received from the Pisces Foundation. And we are very excited to do this work and to really engage in something that's called One Water. And One Water are goals that I'm sure someone else has described this, and even the US Water Alliance recognizes this, but the title, we've recently sort of read more into it, and you can find this in the US Water Alliance's One Water Roadmap, which is a wonderful document. But it's basically this principle and this theory that no matter where we are or where we live, water really connects us all. And all of the forms of it has value. It's water in our lakes and our rivers and our streams, it's stormwater, it's drinking water. And that the full water life cycle can be optimized to build strong economies, vibrant communities, as well as healthy environments. And so the idea with this principle is really that all of us who appreciate water and work in the water realm are working collaboratively to make sure that these improvements in water resources are done across the agencies that we work for or the organizations that we work for. So it's really wonderful to have this collaborative presentation and work that we all engage in. And so very specifically though, the stormwater utility is something that will happen in Pittsburgh soon, and it's an opportunity to fund green infrastructure. And I will let Rebecca and Beth and James, the experts, dive further into it. But this is one of those themes that we really need to understand better so that we can realize this goal of one water across our city. And so just a couple of ground rules. It's really best to keep yourself muted because there's feedback if not, or I don't know, you might hear my child listening to television in the next room. So we'll do that. And then if you wouldn't mind, keep the questions for the end, or you can add them to the chat box if you might forget them, like I might. We'll intro everybody in just a minute. And then after that, I'll do a quick introduction. So why don't we do the introductions for the people who are not presenting, and I'll just call you out as you are in my participant list so that we can keep it organized. So first on my list is Brian Jensen. Brian, would you mind letting us know who you are and who you're with?
Sure. Thanks, Erin. Not sure what you'd like us all to say, but all for stormwater management and all for having a stormwater fee introduced in Pittsburgh. The Allegheny Conference, whom I work for, has endorsed the idea of stormwater fees generally throughout the 10-county region as a way of generating revenue to get good things done.
Wonderful. Yep, that's great. Just your title and who you're with is, or I'm sorry, your name and who you're with is perfect. So Elaine, you are next.
Hi, I'm Elaine Hendricks. I am the Education and Outreach Associate with the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority.
And then Megan Guy.
Hi, I'm Megan Guy. I'm with the Pittsburgh Water Collaboratory at the University of Pittsburgh and excited to learn more about this today. Thanks for having it.
No worries. Okay, so Corinne, you are on your iPad. Could you introduce yourself? That's how you're listed. You are muted. Okay, we'll maybe come back to you. Jim Turner.
Yeah, this is Jim. I'm with PWSA on staff as a senior project manager, and I typically work on stormwater projects.
Thank you. And then John Steven.
Good evening, John Stevens Force.
Great. Susan Rademacher.
Hi, Susan Rademacher, Parks Curator with the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy.
And then Amanda Jane Zelnis.
Hi, my name's Amanda. I'm a student at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm also doing some research with the Pittsburgh Water Collaboratory.
Wonderful. Okay, that's everybody who I can see. Did I miss anyone? Okay. So then, so we have three folks who are going to be presenting to us this evening. Beth Dutton is the Senior Group Manager for Stormwater at the Water and Sewer Authority. Rebecca Zito, who's the Acting Senior Manager of Public Affairs, and then James Stitt as well, who's the Sustainability Manager. And he's been kind enough to join us 2 weeks this month, so we really appreciate that. And their webinar is entitled A New Approach, A Better Way to Fund Stormwater Management in Pittsburgh. And so with that, I will leave it to the folks at PWSA to get going.
Okay, I'm going to jump right in and we'll go through the agenda. So tonight we are going to talk about the role of green infrastructure, recap what it's going to do for our region. We'll also talk a little bit more about the budgeting of stormwater, what to expect with the stormwater fee, how to become a stormwater champion, and we'll entertain questions and answers at the end. Next slide. So the key takeaways we'd like you to have for this evening is to talk about the evolution of PWSA's Green First Plan, emphasize the use of green infrastructure in urban communities, build awareness about funding needs for stormwater solutions, talk about the benefits of the stormwater fee, and provide you with specific ways to be a support and an advocate for stormwater programming in the region. So next slide. So just to recap for those of you who haven't caught along with the conversation about stormwater in the Pittsburgh region, our first sewer lines were built in the middle of the 1800s, and this was in the present-day Shadyside and Oakland neighborhoods. And this was the start of our combined sewer system that is still in use all these years later today. Pittsburgh's, PWSA's current sewer system includes 1,200 miles of sewer lines and more than 25,000 storm drains. So approximately 75% of the sewer system is a combined system, and this means that stormwater and wastewater are combined in the same pipe. The remaining 25% is a separated system, which means wastewater flows through one pipe and stormwater flows through another pipe. Our wastewater goes to ALCOSAN, which is the regional wastewater treatment plant along the Ohio River. They treat wastewater for the 83 municipalities in Allegheny County, including the city of Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh's steep topography and clay soils meant that residents periodically had to deal with flooding, as you see in this photograph, which is very old. River flooding was particularly serious, of course, before the dams. So as we became more urbanized, the pervious surfaces with trees and meadows that had previously soaked up the rain were replaced with roads and rooftops. So this caused stormwater to be shed very quickly, and soon these pipes were no longer large enough to carry the runoff. Overflow structures were created to relieve the system and also to prevent the treatment plant from being overwhelmed by too much flow during rainstorms. Basement backups and street flooding also resulted from these storms. So as in other older cities with combined sewer systems, these challenges can continue till today. So next slide. We, as you all can attest, we have experienced 2 record-breaking years of rainfall since 2016. And this graph here just sketches out the severe storm events by decades, and these are classified as thunderstorms, wind, hail, or tornadoes. So as you can clearly see, the intensity of storms is increasing, and this is clearly contributing to the issues that we're seeing in the city of Pittsburgh. They overwhelm our sewer system, they cause flooding and basement sewer backups, they lead to polluted waterways, and they threaten our public health and safety. Next slide. So these pictures show just exactly what we're talking about with the issues that we're dealing with stormwater today. They show that stormwater problems have become so common that we almost treat them as a way of life now in Pittsburgh. But they do have impacts on our quality of life, and we can address them in a more systematic way. Stormwater drains through gutters and storm sewers and other engineered collection systems, and it's discharged into nearby water bodies, which is also the source of our local drinking water. The stormwater runoff carries trash and bacteria and heavy metals and other pollutants from the urban landscape. Higher flows resulting from heavy rains also can cause erosion and flooding in urban streams and damages habitat, property, and infrastructure. Public safety is also impacted with street flooding, or when residents have to clean up after a sewer backup in their basement. Stormwater has a significant price tag for municipalities. They have to clean and repair or replace pipes with larger ones, and they also have to repair roads when they're damaged by stormwater. And public safety crews have to respond to emergencies to ensure the safety of residents. So green infrastructure has evolved to become an important tool in our toolbox to manage and treat stormwater. These practices, such as rain gardens and green roofs and tree plantings and permeable pavement, rely on soil, plants, and natural processes such as infiltration, evaporation, and transpiration to mimic the natural water cycle and manage rainwater. While single-purpose gray stormwater infrastructure is designed to move urban stormwater away from the built environment, green infrastructure captures and treats stormwater at its source while delivering environmental, social, and economic benefits. It can be used to create healthier, more resilient urban environments. The picture that you see here is a PWSA project at the intersection of Center and Heron Avenues in the Upper Hill District, which directs runoff from surrounding streets into a cascading 580-foot-long bioswale, where it's absorbed by plants or soaks into the ground. Additional stormwater flows into underground storage tanks and is slowly released back into the sewer system. It was constructed in 2017, and it helps prevent street flooding and overloading the combined sewer system. It is estimated to manage 1 million gallons of runoff each year. Next slide. So in 2016, the City of Pittsburgh and PWSA developed the citywide Green First Plan. It is a cost-effective plan that identifies where green infrastructure can help manage stormwater throughout Pittsburgh. So implementing a Green First stormwater management plan addresses multiple stormwater issues by reducing surface flooding, reducing flow from surface streams into the combined sewer. So that's separating the streams, taking them out of the sewers and directing them to the rivers elsewhere, improving water quality and meeting regulatory requirements. So next slide. So we evaluated the system capacity and determined that green infrastructure is a crucial component for a broader solution within our existing sewer system. The plan looked at the highest contributing areas of combined sewer overflows and prioritized those for green stormwater solutions. The analysis revealed that a third of our 90 sewer sheds contribute to 80% of our stormwater problems. And it convinced us that we do indeed need to keep rainwater out of our system. And this can be most effective by focusing on neighborhoods and areas that contribute the most of the runoff to the system. So next slide. So these give you an idea of some of our projects that we've implemented in the city of Pittsburgh. On the far left, in the neighborhood of Brookline, is the Nobles Lane and Ansonia Place Stream Restoration Project. That's where we repaired the stream banks with vegetation and also some rocks at the bottom. And this decreases erosion, which kicks up sediment with every storm. This greatly improves water quality. We also have a very big project in the center. That's in Oakland Greenfield neighborhoods of 4 Mile Run. And that will address both neighborhood flooding and combined sewer overflows. In the neighborhood of Carrick, we have the Volunteers Field Rain Garden, which will collect stormwater and filter it and help improve stream quality. And below that, we have the Thomas and McPherson Green Infrastructure Project, where we're actually using the median strips to integrate green infrastructure, in particular permeable pavement, to capture and store stormwater runoff to help reduce combined sewer overflows. So PWSA has been very active in designing and implementing green infrastructure. So this is a map of the PWSA service area. In the bright blue is the Green First plan areas. In the lighter blue are the combined sewer sheds. And in the gray are the separate sewer sheds. So you can kind of see that proportion that we had talked about earlier. So about 25% of our area is a separated sewer system. And we have numerous water quality issues that we have to address. These are known as the MS4 areas. And our permit requires that we have to implement these projects, like I just showed you on a previous slide, for stream bank restoration, and also that Volunteers Field Rain Garden. We did integrated planning in the Sawmill Run watershed, and that's a way to look at all the problems and prioritize them so that they can be addressed in the most cost-effective way. And finally, scattered across the whole PWSA system are red dots. These are stormwater problem areas that get reported to PWSA by residents or council people. And as you can see, they don't have a preference for any particular neighborhood. They're very challenging to address because they're generally based on maybe roadways that need to be improved, the grading's not quite right. And the problem here is we just don't have the adequate resources to address them, to design and build fixes to these problem areas. So the problem areas greatly impact the quality of life in the city of Pittsburgh. Next slide. So this gives you some examples of the stormwater problem areas we're talking about. You can see on the far left the street flooding, and if this flooding were to go to a stream, it would greatly impact the stream. The sediment in the runoff affects the habitat. It clogs structures, and also, as you can see from the picture below it, it creates really dangerous conditions for both drivers, and a lot of that flow also ends up in residents' basements and yards. Picture in the center is Winchester and Grovemount Drives. It's a very common picture where you see the erosive capacity of stormwater gradually damaging our street infrastructure, which is very expensive. And it usually involves a partnership between PWSA and DOMI in the city of Pittsburgh to try to determine what's causing these problems and figuring out a solution to them together. And finally, on the right, we have a picture that's very common that you see in the wintertime. This is ice along the road. These are due to seeps, which are very common in the hilly Pittsburgh area. So what we try to do is to capture these seeps and pipe them into a sewer structure. But as you can appreciate, they're already pretty much at capacity in a lot of situations. So there's many thorny issues for us to try to address, and it can be very challenging. Next slide. So ALCOSAN's Clean Water Plan was finally approved in May 2020. And the goal of this plan is to reduce 7 billion gallons of combined sewer overflow And one of the key features of the Clean Water Plan is the construction of tunnels along the rivers to capture sewer overflow and convey it to ALCOSAN sewage treatment plant, which the capacity will also be increased. So the combination of the increased treatment capacity at the plant and the tunnels will greatly increase water quality by reducing the sewer overflows. So now we're at a position where the two largest players in the region, PWSA and ALCOSAN, we sit down at the table and we've been coordinating our two programs. So we are going to utilize an updated ALCOSAN model to evaluate projects. And this will inform the location of our future projects for PWSA. The goal of this is to improve cost effectiveness and project performance for all of our projects because we're very conscious of the ratepayers' very limited funds toward sewer fees and stormwater fees. And we want to make sure that the projects that PWSA implements also provide supplementary stormwater benefits to Pittsburgh. So I talked a little bit about the Green First plan. So we're going to evaluate that. We're going to update it and refine it. And we're going to look at opportunities to provide capacity relief in the sewer system by reducing the flow. And what this will do is help reduce localized flooding and basement backups for those water quality of life issues I spoke about earlier. And also, we're going to use this as an opportunity to look at places where we can improve water quality. So those are in particular, those separate sewer areas for the MS4 projects. Next slide. So just to recap, green infrastructure has a very important role. It's an important tool in our toolbox at PWSA, and we will be advancing some of the projects in the Green First plan with, of course, increasing focus on projects to address localized flooding and basement backups, and we'll be implementing projects to improve water quality. Next slide. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the budgeting requirements at PWSA and the capital costs of implementing a green infrastructure program, and also the costs in maintaining it, which can be significant. So next slide. All right, this is a snapshot of our 2020-2024 capital requirements. So these, this is the funding required to build our projects. And this is from our capital improvement plan, which is on the PWSA website. We provide the link right at the bottom. So as you can see from this, the stormwater line item, we have about 27 million that we had estimated that we would need to implement projects for this year to complete construction. And just to recap that this was the most current CIP that was submitted. And the CIP every year is always subject to reevaluation and to change, both based on available funding and for what we feel are the best projects for our ratepayers' dollars. So just another bit of information on the funding required for stormwater projects. So we have spent 4.5 million to date from the inception of the Green Infrastructure Stormwater Group at PWSA on constructing the GI capital projects that we have in the ground right now. And we spent 19.6 million on design and construction. So design is an important and an expensive component of green infrastructure implementation. Next slide. So this gives you a snapshot of the areas where funding is most needed to address our stormwater issues in Pittsburgh. So to enhance operations and maintenance, this is sewer cleaning and CCTV, so determining the condition of the line so we can identify where repairs need to be made to help reduce infiltration. Another area is we need to increase the cleaning and replacement of the catch basins. We need to expand green infrastructure maintenance. So PWSA and the city is currently working on a stormwater agreement. And when it's signed, the intention is for PWSA to take over maintenance of the city's GI projects in the right of way and also city parks over 50 acres. We also want to continue to implement projects to improve water quality. So this relates to our regulatory requirements for our permits. Every municipality has these permits, so this is the MS4. So in order to do this, we have to do inspections and testing of the stormwater and the stormwater lines to see if there's improper connections which are contributing pollutants to what's supposed to be clean water that gets directed to local streams and rivers. This pays for outreach and education for the program, which was required by regulatory requirements. And it also pays to implement those projects, as I showed you earlier, the stream bank restoration and for example, the rain garden and volunteers field. So this, we also need funding to address those stormwater problem areas, and that will help address the neighborhood flooding photo that you saw, the street icing, and damage to roads and other city infrastructure due to stormwater, particularly by these very strong storms that we've been seeing. And finally, the funding is needed to meet compliance and regulatory requirements. So this is flow monitoring for combined sewer flow, a basement backup protection program, so to implement backwater valve programs for city residents. Other cities have this. It pays for GIS mapping, which is really key for the work that we do, and inspections for diversion chambers. So next slide. So we want to give you an update on what to expect from the fee. So currently, PWSA customers have 2 line items on their bills. They have one for water and one for sewer conveyance. And this, of course, is based on water consumption, potable water consumption from their water meter. And the consumption has nothing to do with stormwater service. So stormwater, the amount of stormwater generated from a property is based on the amount of impervious surface on that property. So right now, funding for stormwater service comes from the sewer rates. And this reduces the investment that we were able to make in the stormwater system. The current system means that residential customers pay a disproportionate amount, and those that contribute the most stormwater are not paying their fair share. So for example, for a commercial property owner that's a large parking lot that maybe doesn't use much water or any water, they don't have to pay anything for the stormwater that gets conveyed from their site and treated. But with the stormwater fee, they will have a non-residential fee that they will pay. So when we add the stormwater service, ratepayers will see 3 service areas on their bill: water, wastewater conveyance, and stormwater. And this will provide a more equitable way of charging for stormwater so that everyone will pay their fair share. So the stormwater fee is calculated by taking what PWSA has determined to be our stormwater revenue requirements, divided it by the total billing units, which are equivalent residential units, and that will equal the ERU rate. So in its simplest terms, the rates are designed to exactly capture the needed funds in this way. So more and more cities have gone to this method of establishing an impervious surface charge to address stormwater. And in fact, in 2019, a study done by Western Kentucky University found that 1,700 stormwater utilities had been formed in the US, and every year more are being formed. So this next graphic, I'll walk you through it. If you'll notice, both of the parcel boundaries are the exact same size and shape. However, in the graphic on the left, there's much more pervious surface area and less impervious. So that is one equivalent residential unit. In the graphic on the right, there's a lot more impervious surface area. So that looks like it's probably a rooftop and maybe it's a parking lot. So that's 5 equivalent residential units. Next slide. So for residential customers, we've had some public outreach, and we got some feedback that it seems more fair to have not just one rate for residential customers, because not all residential properties are the same size. There's very small row houses versus very, very large houses with a lot of impervious surface between the rooftop and driveways. So we're going to propose a tiered rate structure, and this will reflect the varied amounts of impervious surface area and provides more equity. The tiers are going to be based on the ranges of impervious square feet, so there'll be 3 tiers. And the middle tier, tier 2, will equal 1 ERU. So if you're a homeowner and you have 8 children, or 8 children, or high water use, a lot of people in the house, chances are that due to the reallocation of the stormwater fee, it might be the wastewater fee might come down a little bit from what you're experiencing. So next slide. So for non-residential customers, again, I didn't mention for residential customers, we will have a credit system. And non-residential customers likewise will have a credit program, and that will be for controlling runoff that exceeds code requirement with the maximum credit less than 100% of total fee. And for non-residential customers, the rate structure will be based on the total amount of their impervious surface area. So just to recap, the benefits of the stormwater fee to PWSA customers and to the city of Pittsburgh is a way to more equitably charge for stormwater. And it will allow us to more effectively manage stormwater runoff and wet weather incidents. We'll be able to better improve water quality and reduce exposure to regulatory violations, and will allow us to continue to realize economic, social, and environmental benefits. So finally, as you know, PWSA is under the Pennsylvania Utility Commission, PUC, and the PUC is strongly supportive of PWSA implementing a stormwater fee. So they've encouraged us to do this. And so we're currently developing a tariff proposal and a rate with the intention of submitting it to the PUC in the 4th quarter of this year. And they will review it, and with the intention that the new stormwater fee will go into effect in January 2022. And that concludes my portion of the presentation. Rebecca, take it away. Rebecca, are you on mute?
Okay, sorry about that. I was having a little trouble finding the controls, so pardon that. Pardon the technical difficulty. So my name is Rebecca Zito, and I work at PWSA, obviously, and in their public affairs department. And so that was a lot of information that Beth just shared about the stormwater program and the budget and fee, which is coming. And there's a lot of information that we do need to share with the community, and in our outreach, we would like to be able to develop and build residents and other advocates who can serve as stormwater champions. So I want to share a little bit about some of our communication and the ways that you can help. All right, so we have been working on developing a communications campaign around the stormwater fee for about 1.5 years now. And it began with creating a message guide, and it includes a series of talking points that will help to build awareness about the fee and the need for a dedicated stormwater program in Pittsburgh. And in 2019, in early 2019, we held a series of focus groups which provided the opportunity to test our messaging with a series with different audiences throughout Pittsburgh. So we shared our messaging with residents, a sampling of community leaders, and also developers and property owners. And what we found is that there are a lot of similar traits in how they all responded to the messaging. What we learned is that they would like details about our projects, transparency about our fee, and a sense of inclusivity about implementing the management plan. And the messages that we found that resonated the most were proactive, they showed action, and provided enough detail to make people feel informed. So really, these are the ones that did resonate most soundly with the people who participated in the focus groups. We found that they really liked the notion of the stormwater fee being an ounce of prevention. Nobody really gets all that excited about paying for a new fee, but when they are learning about and realizing how it can help to implement projects that will provide additional protection or management of stormwater throughout the city, then they thought that it was a good preventative measure that we could implement. And they also like the notion of using a combination of green and gray infrastructure. This message specifically provided quite a bit of detail about the types of projects that we would implement, the different stormwater solutions that could be used. And it really provided a way for them to understand a little bit more about our projects. And then they found it to be a good investment. Constructing these projects, paying the fee and having it go towards the projects was considered a good investment for Pittsburgh. And then the notion that we're all in this together, that there are things that all of us can do to help manage stormwater throughout Pittsburgh, was something that they really felt was important to convey. And so we are developing a variety of collateral material to help spread the word and build awareness about the program. And so we have one-pagers and FAQs that are available. There is one that we would like to share with you tonight, if we can provide a link to that in the chat or after the meeting in some way. And social media, a website, developing content for outreach meetings and videos are all different ways that we're looking at sharing this information. And we have developed a dedicated style to share this information about the stormwater fee and the stormwater program. And some of the things that I like about the style that we created is that it is very friendly. And has an engaging feel to it. It shares some tidbits about the history of Pittsburgh's sewer system and provides information about our infrastructure projects. There are other messages that share a little bit of background about the amounts of rain, increasing amounts of rain that we have seen from year to year. And these graphics, they are very high level. There's not a lot of technical detail in them, so it's very easy for people who aren't as involved in all of this to really understand and begin to sort of see the direction in which we're heading. And so you'll see these in social media. We'll be putting them out onto our website and in different print materials that that people could take with them. And so the different ways in which you can get involved and help. We do need to share this information more broadly with the Pittsburgh community, especially as we get closer to submitting our rate filing with the PUC. And so one of the ways in which we can do that is by going out to community meetings and sharing this information with other residents and business groups that are interested and want to know more about our stormwater program and the fee. So we encourage you to invite us to speak at your community meetings. You can also follow us on social media, and if you see posts related to stormwater, please share those and help to spread the word and engage your friends and followers in some of the activity that we are doing here in Pittsburgh. And then there are everyday things that residents and even business owners can do to help keep our storm drains clean, keep our neighborhoods green and clean as well. And some of those things, you know, if you see litter piling up on a catch basin, then feel free to sweep that up or pick it up. If you see plastic bottles on top of catch basins or plastic bags, please pick those up because we don't want those things entering our sewer system. And then just through your neighborhood, like picking up litter, picking up after, cleaning up after your dog and disposing of dog waste and pet waste properly. The catch basins, they're not trash cans and things like that shouldn't be going into them. And then using lawn chemicals sparingly and taking your car to a car wash to have it cleaned are all ways that you can help to keep pollutants out of our stormwater. And by keeping your neighborhood green, you know, think about installing a rain barrel or a rain garden if you haven't done those things already. Those are great ways to capture stormwater, and using native plants in your gardens and around your home are other ways in which we can create healthy neighborhoods that are more resilient to the storms that we see. And then talk to neighbors about your shared stormwater experiences. If you're experiencing basement backups or seeing that there is more flooding occurring in your neighborhood, chances are your neighbors are also experiencing similar issues. And by talking to them, that helps to build a little more awareness and build a little more of a I guess, collective knowledge around the stormwater issues within your neighborhood. And we want you to report those back to us so that we can continue to track problems that people are experiencing within the Pittsburgh area, and we can work towards addressing those. And you see that we have our phone number that you can call in order to report those issues. That it will get you to our dispatch, and they will take note of the issue that you're experiencing. That's all that I really wanted to share tonight on our outreach and communications and the ways that you can help. And with that, we can turn it over to questions.
Great. I wonder, Rebecca, if there was something you wanted to share as a document, you could put it in the chat. We're very happy to follow up,
okay,
of course, with you know, pieces of information, and we will be sure to do that. We've been talking to the task force members and leaders quite a lot. And then, so there is definitely one question in here from Andrea Boykowitz from OPDC, or the Oakland Planning and Development Corporation. Is it PWSA's current expectation that extending liability for impervious surface to non-ratepayers will have an impact on residential ratepayers? In other words, will homeowners pay less for their water usage now that parking lots will be paying more for their runoff?
I can take that. When the fees apply, the residents will have as little change as possible on their overall bill. However, we do want to be clear that the goal of the stormwater fee is to also identify those areas where we can improve the level of service and the quality of life for the residents. And the biggest impact, I feel, will be on helping us to better address those stormwater problem areas. In addition, I had talked about our permit requirements for MS4. That's often called the unfunded mandate, because it's required to be performed by municipalities. But municipalities in general, they don't include that in their tax base to cover stormwater issues. So those are the two areas that, in particular, where we would like to improve service. So that kind of answers both sides of that question.
Okay, thank you, Beth. And so John Stephen with the Negley Run Watershed Task Force is asking, is there a role for community organizations, RCOs is how they're often abbreviated, and or the public in capital project prioritization in addition to PWSA and ALCOSAN?
So that would be an opportunity for community members to provide their input to help prioritize projects.
Yes, probably. Well, John, do you want to unmute yourself and clarify?
I guess I was thinking of like the Homewood Comprehensive Plan identifies rainwater stewardship as a priority. So they're looking at what type of rainwater or stormwater projects, green infrastructure, they might want to prioritize. And there's already a lot of community farms and gardens planned or being implemented. So would those be integrated into some project priority process in any way?
And would those be projects they would be implementing?
Most likely, yes.
Mm-hmm. And they would be
maybe not. Yeah, and you know I guess the Homewood, for instance, comp plan refers to Silver Lake and the Negley Run conveyance. So there's kind of an expressed preference for that type of rainwater infrastructure,
mm-hmm.
If you will. So will they have it? You know, what public process will there be for them to participate in this sort of capital budget, capital project selection process?
Well, they can always contact us, but we'll be starting into our public outreach and education program for the stormwater fee. And we can make it a point to talk with you to identify good venues to talk with the community groups. And it will likely be a way for us to find out where these projects are and to see how they match up with the areas that both PWSA and ALCOSAN identifies as being highly cost-effective, high-performing sites for green infrastructure. So if there were to be public funds spent on these sites, it would have to meet that criteria.
Okay, there are a couple more questions, but two, I wonder, because John was asking about the comprehensive plan for Homewood, and that's a city of Pittsburgh, you know, document. And so in addition to community interest that's already bought into this, you know, there's some level of coordination with the city of Pittsburgh as well, which, is there anything you'd like to add about that?
With comprehensive plans. Yeah, it would, that would definitely be something that we would like to consider, and we could evaluate locations for projects, be they from community input or from comprehensive plans, and they could all be considered as part of the process as we update and we refine our green infrastructure planning for locations.
Great. Okay. So then, Andrea asked again, is it not the case that PWSA is currently billing ratepayers for stormwater conveyance, though? It's understood that you'd like to raise additional revenue, but giving relief to ratepayers is what we hear as a top priority everywhere.
Well, you are already paying for stormwater out of the sewer conveyance fee, so the stormwater fee is not a new fee. It's just reallocating using a different metric. So it shouldn't impact the bottom line all that much. James, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
Sure. So yeah, what we've done with this fee is, yeah, you're right. There is current collections in our rate structure to pay for stormwater services, and that's in the conveyance fee that you already have. So on your bill, you have two line items that are both based on the amount of water that goes through your water meter for potable water. Your water service fee, and then your sewer conveyance fee. What we're doing with this stormwater fee is we're actually looking at the allocations in that sewer conveyance fee to say, okay, well, how much of that actually goes to sewage conveyance and how much of that goes to stormwater management? That percentage is what we're going to break out and then base our overall impervious area fee on the revenue needed to capture that percentage of our stormwater management costs. So as I think Beth mentioned earlier, if you are, you know, a large water user and you have, you know, or a resident, you know, we're looking at a flat rate or a tiered rate residential fee that's going to be, you know, relatively a close number for all the tiers. There's a good chance that you've been overpaying for stormwater management, and this process that we're going through to reallocate and redefine these fees in a more equitable way is going to bring down your overall bill. Now, on the other side of it, if you are a, you know, low water consumer, single person living in, you know, by yourself, that number may end up going, you know, your total number for your water bill may go up a little bit. What we're looking at it all in all is to find sort of that median point across the city and have the least amount of impact to, you know, the typical residential home, and that's where we're going to start with our numbers for this rate. So, you know, the additional revenue that we collect is not going to be on the fee itself. Any additional revenue that we collect will be on anyone who's not currently paying a water bill. Things like, you know, parking lots that don't have a water meter because they don't have water service, but they have significant runoff, or you know, buildings, warehouses that have, you know, one water meter for a small bathroom and an employee kitchen, but, you know, have a large rooftop footprint or something like that. So that's where the balance will be, and that's where we are, you know, expecting to make up the additional revenue for stormwater management costs. It's hopefully, you know, like I said, we are able to balance the residential rates to keep that bottom line number pretty much the same. You're going to see 3 items on your bill instead of 2. but the total number at the bottom should be the same because that sewer conveyance charge, technically, in most of these will come down no matter what.
Thanks very much, James. Andrea, did that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so John asked a question that was follow-up to his other question. Thanks very much, James and Beth. Will the stormwater fee apply only to city residents? How could it apply to Aspinwall residents of Sharps or Sharpsburg residents, etc.?
Right now, it will only apply to PWSA customers. But for Aspinwall residents, does I don't know if Aspinwall is looking at also implementing a stormwater fee.
It will only apply to Pittsburgh property owners and residents.
Yeah, this is a parcel-based fee, and so we are only assessing it, on city of Pittsburgh within the boundaries of the city parcels. So if you get water service from us and you're one of our, wholesale or alternative, consumers that we pipe water to, like Fox Chapel or Aspinwall or Sharpsburg or some of those places, those are not technically within the city of Pittsburgh. If you're in the South Hills and you have Penn American water, but you're still within the city of Pittsburgh, you will be getting stormwater billing from us.
Interesting point. And so John said, never mind to the second question, but I appreciate you answering it because it added a little more detail, so thank you. Is there anybody else on the call that has a question? Well, I should say first that it is 7:03, and so I want to respect folks' times who have to scoot off the call, but also just say that it was a typo in the email that Gavin sent out about the next webinar, which is from Biohabitats about living infrastructure. And it's actually this Wednesday. And I'm going to share my screen so you can see, let's see, is that it? Let's see. So you can see it. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I thought I already had it up. But there's a presentation on Wednesday about living infrastructure from a national firm called Biohabitats. And I believe it starts at 4, and I really apologize that I don't have that up already. But I wanted to let you all know about it, and it's on the Parks on the Go section of our website. So there's that. And I will share it in just a minute. And then, so are there any other questions that came up for anybody else on the call?
There was just a question about sharing the slides.
Oh, yes. We are recording this, and so we'll put the recording on our website, and if if other folks want to add it to their website, please, they are very welcome to. And we can certainly share the slides if that's okay with Rebecca, James, and Beth. How do you feel about that, friends?
Yes, that would be fine.
Wonderful. So I'll just show you here. This living infrastructure, green is great, but alive is better. Wednesday, July 1 at 4. So that's this week, from Jennifer Massette, who's out of Biohabitats. But so you know, this is on our Parks on the Go website. There's interesting things on here that we've created or recurated, I suppose. And so it's pittsburghparks.org/dive-in. Please join us for that. And then here is one other question. And if you have to hop off, please do. Does this change, and this is from Amanda Jane, does this change in billing impact any of the customer assistance programs? It's a good question. And I wonder, Amanda Jane, do you mean about water service, like having potable water delivered, that sort of assistance program?
I'm just gonna mute myself. I was talking about like affordability and keeping like all these bills affordable for everyone across the city. So like, does the change in rate structure affect any of these customer assistance programs?
Given that the bottom line will pretty much stay the same for most people, I don't think it will have that much of an impact. But as far as I know, if it would create a hardship and you qualified for the customer assistance program, I would think that it would be considered. James, do you know? Do you have any input on that?
We would still continue to offer our customer assistance programs. Those aren't going anywhere. What I'm not certain of is how the stormwater fee factors into that as an additional layer within the assistance program.
If there isn't an answer now, are you willing to get back to us and we can share that information back out?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, thank you. Thanks for that question, Amanda. Okay, with that, I'll just say thank you one more time to the folks who presented and all of you who attended. Really appreciate your time and the work that you put into it. So, you know, enjoy the rest of your Monday evening and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks, bye.